And here it is, my review of The Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies. And in case you didn't already know, I am a fairly big fan of the Middle-earth saga. I've seen all the Lord of the Rings films multiple times, love them to death, grew up with them, have of course read the Hobbit book, and when I found out that they were making a film series based on the Hobbit, I was indeed ecstatic. I was slightly iffy when I found out that they were turning it into 3 films rather than 2, but that did not curb my excitement for these films at all, and here we are with the Battle of the Five Armies. Now, since I never really got to share my opinions on the first 2 films in the Hobbit trilogy, I'm going to do that now. So, An Unexpected Journey, I thought, was really disappointing upon first viewing, but I think that was mainly due to the insane amount of hype surrounding the film at the time. Because I've seen the film 4 times now. Twice in cinema, twice at home. And it just gets better upon each repeat viewing. And eventually, I raised up my star rating from a 4 to a 4.5. The Desolation of Smaug I liked a bit more. In fact, had I not read the book, I probably would have given it 5 stars. It perhaps could have been a little bit more intense, but it was an excellent action-adventure film nonetheless, and a proud inclusion into Middle-earth. I would have it titled with Gravity for the film of 2013 that I truly believe I got my most money's worth out of. And now it's time to review the Battle of the Five Armies. And in case you've been living under a rock for the past few years, the Battle of the Five Armies is of course the final installment in the Hobbit trilogy, and continues directly after the Desolation of Smaug. There isn't any flashback scene to start off with like there have been with the previous installments. No, just straight into the action, and after Lake Town has been left in ruins from Smaug's attack, the people of Lake Town believe that they deserve some of the money that the dwarfs have found under the Lonely Mountain and have claimed as theirs. So once disagreements start to spur between the dwarves, the people of Lake Town, and the elves, as into who deserves what share of the money, well, then a bit of a problem occurs. And then the orcs come in and make matters even worse, and thus a final battle ensues to sort out everything once and for all. So with a film of that description, you're gonna want some pretty awesome action scenes, am I right? Well, good news. It delivers. I mean, the action scenes and how they are directed are immensely impressive. They 1-up, no, they 5-up the action in the Desolation of Smaug, and that's a feat that I thought to be impossible. All the action sequences bring something new to the table. These are things that I wouldn't even dream of in the wildest parts of my imagination. And there has been this speculation around Peter Jackson's 45-minute battle sequence featured in this film. Let me tell you now, it's more than just a 45-minute battle scene. It's not like in The Two Towers, where everyone's morphed together into one and they battle it out. No, it is formed from multiple different set pieces, each involving different characters. So these 45 minutes just fly by, but you still savour them in because there's a lot of different things happening at once. You're never bored. And there are some real highlights here, especially a battle scene on a bridge between Legolas, Tauriel, and one of the orcs, and then also a spectacular final fight between Thorin and Azog on ice. Now, not only are the visuals beyond great, but along with them, it gives off a perfect sense of atmosphere, one that really sucks you into the film and makes you believe you're right here with these characters. Even though it is a fantasy, this still feels like a real, relatable and believable world that you could imagine yourself being in. And this is mainly achieved through the music, the costuming, makeup, tone, and especially the cinematography and visual effects. I would highly recommend that you see this in HFR 3D, because as seen in the first two, high frame rate, 48 frames per second, is absolutely beautiful and adds to the experience of a movie and further invests you and sucks you into this world. So does the 3D. It's more impressive than in The Desolation of Smaug and An Unexpected Journey. There's some really cool 3D shots in here, but they're not gimmicky at all, and it just adds extra layers of depth to the film and just further immerses you in there. On the performance sides of things, very natural and believable performances by both Martin Freeman and Richard Armitage. Armitage especially has a very heavy-handed task to deliver with this one, because his role is further developed in this film, and he just gives off a really strong performance that really adds to the film's main themes, those being power, corruption, greed, and how it can overtake oneself. And he does it in such a way that isn't over the top at all. Now, maybe this is my inner Tolkien fan speaking out here, but there are, as expected, some heightened emotional points in here. But they were more than expected, and they really get a reaction out of you. And I can well imagine that people who haven't read the book will not see these ones coming, and it will further resonate with them. And especially the plots, twists and turns that it has to offer, these are ones that people who do not read the books will not see coming. Trust me there. Now, one of the subplots, I must say, I found to be unnecessary. There's this one minor reoccurring plot point that mainly focuses on this one character, and I felt it wasn't really needed, and it was only really in there for comedic relief. But the thing is, it just wasn't funny. And there was already enough humour in the film to suffice. It was bordering on annoying, and the character doesn't really go through any arc to begin with as the film progresses, so it just was unneeded, and I felt like that really could have been chopped out. And now, speaking of things being chopped out, despite the 2 hour and 24 minute runtime, I feel this film was a little bit too short. Now, what I'm saying is that there are two things where I think further material could have been added in. I think that several more minutes in build-up to the battle would have been helpful, because the battle seemed to happen quite suddenly, and it just happened out of the blue, to be honest. And I also would have liked a little bit more at the ending, because I felt it all wrapped up a bit too quickly, and it wasn't satisfactory enough, especially for an epic trilogy like this. Now, a minor complaint here is that it was a little too corny in many places. It wasn't overboard corny, but it is noticeably more corny than in the other two films. And it was just a bit more corn than needed, as one might say. Well, as I would say. However, if this was my only gripe with the film, I would still give it 5 stars, so it's no big deal at all. So now we wrap things up with the one-sentence review. The Battle of the Five Armies is a both fitting and epic final instalment that is sure to please both fans as well as casual watchers, and will leave you wanting to watch both trilogies all over again. I give The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, 4.5 stars out of 5. Now, that does it for my review of The Battle of the Five Armies. But a smaller film that's playing in cinemas right now is for Young and Prodigious T.S. Spivet. It's only showing in, I believe, 3 cinemas across New Zealand, but I managed to catch it at the New Zealand International Film Festival, so I'm just going to do a brief review on that. So, the Young and Prodigious T.S. Spivet, it follows the story of a boy who gets a call saying that he's won the prestigious award for his new invention. So he leaves his family and he sets off to go all the way to accept this award at the Smithsonian. It's a very delightful film, and it's one that really manages to capture the true magic and real feel of how an, I believe, 11-year-old boy thinks and feels. And it really brought me back to when I was 11 years old. It maybe gets a bit too fantastical, and it definitely relies on way too many cliches towards the third act, but it is a wonderful, delightful, has a brilliant first act, and has the brilliant, fantastical magic and directing style of the director of Amelie. I'm not even going to bother pronouncing his name. But I would definitely recommend it for kids during the school holidays. Maybe a little bit more mature. I'd suggest that the parents definitely go along, but it's suitable for all ages. I recommend that you go see it if you're looking for something to watch over summer school holidays. 4 stars. So, that's me for the time being. That's me for 2014. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm Thomas, and that's a review.